Fairly simple path to victory from opening up. You think rap that is created by men and primarily consumed by men is almost overwhelmingly misogynistic and bad for women in quite trivial ways. The other part of this path to victory is that the only plausible set of cases in which I think opposition are likely to win, which is female-created rap, is still problematic in huge numbers of ways. It's likely to promote an incredibly patriarchal ideal of what sexual liberation looks like. It's likely to be overwhelmingly geared towards male gaze in a way that makes it incredibly pernicious. Let's start with the more trivial stuff on male-created rap. I would notice that this is still the majority of rap that is consumed in the world, and it's also still the majority of rap. That is consumed by women. Maybe that is something that is changing to a certain extent for a very long period of time, but in the space in which this motion is taking place, it's still primarily male-created rap. I think this kind of rap has involved two particular kinds of things. Firstly, I think overwhelmingly, it's involved a huge number of the use of slurs. I'm not going to repeat them, but ways of referring to women that are particularly awful. And I think it's also involved huge numbers of stories of abuse. It's clarification.
Yeah. What is like modern rap? Are we talking about 60s DMX?
Reasonable. I think given that rap hasn't necessarily it existed barely in the 60s, but it's like really come to prominence since the 90s. I assume this is like the last 10, 15 years. There's maybe some scope for this, but yeah, I think it's something like that. Okay, and I think there's also involved a huge amount of stories of abuse and objectification. The treating of women as commodities. Narratives about I'm able to take your girl. Narratives about the huge number of people that they're able to attract. Why do I think this is, apart from just the empirical thing that I think this is blatantly true, there are a couple of structural reasons for why I think that. Firstly, I think rap is likely to continue to do this kind of thing, given that rap, like structurally in terms of its tradition, is often about playing into a power fantasy. Very similar with the ways in which people often tell stories of how rich they are, of like physical violence association with characters, and so on. I think a very easy group to dominate, and I think a group to dominate with whom a lot of men have power fantasies, given structural misogyny, is likely to be women. So they're always likely to be picked on this way. I think it's also a lowest common denominator ambition in certain ways for many men. I think rap is often about aspirations of what people hope to be. I think fairly low in common denominator desire for a lot of straight men in the world is to have this kind of be able to use women as objects in this way. It's always something that's likely to be appealed to a large extent. Finally, I think just appeals to male misogyny. In many other states, this is a remarkably rare space in terms of how blatantly fucking open you are able to be about the ways in which you genuinely hate women. There are other, this is reported to a far lesser extent in other spaces. At that point, I think the impacts are pretty true. I think men are much more likely to feel comfortable using these kind of slurs, given that they're kind of things that they're hearing more often, and given that people that are likely to admire to a large extent are using them. I think they're also more likely to adopt this kind of particular attitudes. I guess, so overall opposition pointed out, there are other ways in which these kind of behaviors are formed as well. That is fine. We don't need to prove this is the only way in which we do this. We just need to prove that insofar as this is the kind of media that a huge number of men around the world use as like their primary form of music, insofar as it's something they've listened to for literally hundreds of thousands of hours, I think it's plausible to say that it's something that influences their behavior. I think for women also, there's enormous harm to the point at which you almost have to fairly unavoidably hear this kind of thing in your daily life. Very difficult to opt out of it. It's the kind of music that's plausibly playing on the radio. It's the kind of music that's playing at parties. It's the kind of music your friends are listening to enthusiastically you as well. I think you have to hear yourself being talked about in disgusting ways on a daily basis, and I think that's awful. And I will take you later. Let's move on to female creative rap again. So I know this is the only place for opposition. I think that this has been dominated by hypersexualization in a way that's incredibly damaging for women. Just in terms of appearance here, I think like the most plausible instances of this are things like rap, things like the way that people like Nicki Minaj, Kanye, rap, and so on. Yes, this isn't all women. There are other people who rap as well, but I think this is for structural reasons likely to be the kind of rap that's most salient and has most impact on the ground. In terms of characterization of what this looks like, I think it often looks like bragging how you look, and often demeaning other people in the process, saying that you look better than them. I think it's about bragging about sexual power, about bragging about being able to take other people's men. I think it's bragging about sex skills, and I think it's about music videos, social media, and promotion materials that overwhelmingly it's like for sexualizing. Why do I think that's likely to be an enormous problem? A couple of areas of analysis here. I think the first problem with this, and a couple more structural reasons why this is likely to continue being the case. Firstly, I think, as I said, the rap tradition often focuses on display of power versus others. But notably, a lot of the kinds of spaces that male rappers traditionally appeal to demonstrate their power versus other people are less likely to be salient for particular women, given things like criminality. A lot of the ways that people describe themselves as crime and wealth aren't things that are massively available to women. Crack selling tends to be a fairly male-dominated field. The second thing then, unfortunate. But maybe fortunate. I'm not sure. We want crack. It's like the we want more female for our maybe we don't. Second thing, I think this rap to a large extent plays to audiences. I will take that. I think this rap plays to a large extent to male audiences who are still primary listeners. In the part, they are the many listeners of the genre, giving the genre on the whole primarily appeal to them. I think they're likely to want to play with its fantasies to a large extent. I think there are male producers of this music that have influence over how it's shaped. And here's the really important thing. I think it's incredibly difficult to call out this rap for being misogynistic in the way you can do for male rappers. For it's likely because it is produced by women. There's always the defense available that no, this can't be misogynistic because it is produced by women. Now, given the kind of structural factors that you can describe, it make it likely that this kind of thing is still going to be male-dominated. I think in reality it is patriarchal. But it's very difficult to convince people that it is that way, and that's what I think is problematic. Before I get to impacts, I'll take this.
This is just categorically untrue. Tory Lanez became significantly unprofitable when he shot Big and Salad in the foot. Oftentimes, hip-hop's function is the checking mechanism of patriarchy and things. This is why Like Honeybee is significantly popular.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I think a large part of why people didn't like him for shooting her in the foot is that shooting people in the foot is generally something that people like. I really don't think it matters that much that it's a woman here. I think generally people would have thought this was kind of insane. Okay, impacts in terms of why I think this is bad. Firstly, I think it's likely to coerce a particular ideal of sexual liberation on women who might not otherwise want to do that. I think it's likely to be a model of sexual liberation that is particularly geared towards men. Insofar as we think we want people to have more options for that kind of thing outright, we think that's hard. But secondly, audience think this today, kind of think that the sexual liberation and other forms of body positivity aren't likely to be highly liberating in reality for reasons that we just described. I think the conception of sexual liberation is often very male-oriented. It's in lyrics like, your man likes me more, because I look better implied to him. Your man likes me more than he likes you, because I'm able to please him to a better extent than he is to you. And I think the third thing to say here, and this is really pernicious, insofar as there are these patriarchal, dominated tendencies, male-gay stuff within female rap, I think this is a way of legitimizing the objectification that happens in male rap. Insofar as women are able to do this to themselves, and insofar as people are able to say this is a really empowering kind of fantasy, it becomes far harder to criticize male rappers when they do this. You compare that to a comparative world in which where female rap is much different. I'm very, very proud to you.
I'd like to thank the speaker for that excellent speech. And leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
Logic is writing one thing. Rap is power. For you to be able to talk about your struggle, oppression, of what you have to go through, and most importantly, how you took on those tasks and went through them, how those problems did not even matter, is power that women should hold, and we think that modern raps gives them the ability to do that. Because I think silence for women having sex is something bad. It's good that Cardi said it out loud. Struggles of being a woman just generate with feminism and with the ideas that we have grown up is good to be something said out loud. Even if they're misogynistic ideas, it's just good to listen to Eminem and just say, yeah, I fucked that bitch, I'm going to get over my problems or whatever. Why? Firstly, a bit of why is modern rap accepting of women? Because I don't think they meet their burden. Because firstly, I think women are a huge market, and rap industry is very industrialized. There are producers that have a lot of other clients that are not rap, that care for specifically how they're perceived, whether they're going to get canceled, how much financialization are going to have on their project. And those that the producers are the ones that decide which which songs are going to become hits. And they're very specific not to have a lot of misogynistic things within them, a lot of slurs within them. They like edit them out and all those types of things because they don't want the negative impacts. And again, as women are a huge market, they're 50% of the population. They also want to tailor the rap to them. I don't see how one specific rapper will make that much of an impact if there is not a producer behind them that is giving the rap to an audience. But secondly, I think hatred towards women has been like deemed illegitimate for so long that A, audibly saying it gets you cancelled. The producer side, as I said, don't want you to give it, but also B, a lot of the rappers nowadays don't think about women in the sexist way that rappers before talked about them, and again we're talking about modern rap here. Many of the rappers are like brought up in a world where their mothers were strong, where their mothers cared for their children, have respect for women. They saw a lot of women role models. They also did not grow up with so much sexist narratives that they did in the past. I'm not sure that their case stands. Thirdly, yes, women artists have risen, and it is about time. I don't even need to have to prove that those artists more than probably talk about women problems and are not that misogynistic. I think that's intuitive. Fourthly, I think rap generally fits into the concept of being about women because women are historically oppressed. And rap is created by minorities, for tackling oppression. Rap has been used as a political tool to be able to vocalize this oppression and how minorities are able to handle it. And I think women fit particularly well with the narrative of rap. And note that women have a lot of problems, right? I don't think I need to prove to you as to why women are oppressed. And why is it important for modern rap to be accepted to women? If they're right in saying that modern rap, if it's misogynistic, then it's going to cause misogyny, then if I say it's not that misogynistic, and in the groups in which it is written that they themselves say are sometimes misogynistic, it's good to have rap that is not explicitly misogynistic, because it socializes the people that are listening to it in a field that is not explicitly sexist, thus they might not be that much. But also secondly, for them to have women artists and to see and listen to women artists, which I think most of people do, even if they're misogynistic, like Buckus, White Spice, Nicki Minaj, it makes them realize that women hold power. Because as I said, rapping is power. Being able to rap about sex is also power. This makes these men that are now misogynistic conceptualize that women also hold power and are deserving of their audience. But secondly, I think women get to experience rap that is tailored to them and not against them in the worst case. And I think that's historically, for you, the mental association of rap as hype is there. So for women to be able to experience rap as hype, to be able to hype themselves up for the days and for the struggles that they experience on normal life. But what rap feels like is something very specific. We're not talking about any other genre. We are talking about rap, which has a very specific beat. It has very sped up words. It has all the slurs that make you feel like nothing is important and all those things. And all of those components meshed together make you feel like you have the power, make you feel hyped up and like give you the adrenaline and all of those things. And I think it's great for women to experience that experience, right? Because if it's tailored to them and they hear about similar struggles, about sexuality, how sexual they can be, how specifically men don't want to care about the women talking about sex, but also other women-specific issues, such as sexism, or just poor women getting in rap and representing the problems that poor women have. It's something important. But I want to take them other rest. Okay, rap is misogynistic. I did nothing in my speech so far. Rap, yes, it might cause some people to get misogynistic. I think women who listen to rap, no matter the lyrics, and no matter if they're misogynistic or not, makes women more empowered. Before I go on with this, yes?
Yeah, can you give an example of a woman's rapper who falls in that criteria?
Yes, I think Cardi was incredibly poor, and then she sang a lot about how she was poor and how she overcame that. Maybe you could just listen to WAP. But I also think that WAP also represents her struggles with being a stripper beforehand and before sometimes. So let's talk about women listening to WAP, because women struggle. And a lot of the struggles that women have are not recognized because we live in a male-dominated society, because it has been taboo for women to talk about their struggles. And I think think there is very little art because of that helps us overcome our struggles. The art that we read are romance novels and all those things that not necessarily make us feel like we are in control, make us feel as if we have the power to solve our issues. And in that sense, even if rap has some slurs towards women, sure, even if some of the underlying tones in some songs that are most probably not all songs exist with misogynistic view, I think there is very little that women care about. They do care about listening to the song and feeling empowered. As I said, there is very little part that already makes them feel that. Because it's giving them an outlet to feel the emotion, to feel as if they can tackle their problems. Again, because rap, and I don't think you can argue that, it makes you feel like you can do something, even if all are stacked against you. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the speaker for that excellent speech and call upon the next member of the proposition. Here.
He's not too happy about debating. They're not paying any attention. I'm not sure.
I think Velina is doing it well, absolutely delusion. The most popular Kanye song that I can think of is a song that says there are flaws in this house, and I don't necessarily think that is empowering feminists. I don't think the music industry is suddenly a very feminist industry. Realistically, everything that Velina says, maybe it's not that misogynistic. I'm hungry to learn live wasn't that long ago. That was saying, maybe consent's not that good. I just don't think that's realistic. And I think even if it is, I like the rap that Velina talked about is not the rap that exists most commonly within the world, not the rap that most people listen to, and therefore it's probably not the rap that's most important within this today. I think even the stuff that Velina talked about, which today would be empowering, talk about empowering things or these sorts of things, I think realistically it's not a rap that most people choose to engage with. The rap that most people choose to engage with is things like black, things that are incredibly sexual, push sexual narratives on women that don't necessarily want these narratives in the first place. And then the next thing that Velina says is, like they can make rap and empower you and make you feel like you think like otherwise didn't think you could do. Cocaine empowers me and makes me feel like I could do it, but I otherwise couldn't necessarily do. I don't necessarily think that means it's like an objectively moral truth in the first place. I think beyond that there are very few responses from opposition to our case. I'm going to prove structurally that the music industry is so incredibly sexist, and then we're going to talk about a few things that I think are particularly important. Firstly, the people who control the music industry are still men, even if they are not. The people who control the music industry previously were men. The people who set what was good and what was bad within music and what was good within and bad within aesthetic were men. The people, when women have risen up through the ranks, they've risen up through the ranks by appealing to things that the men already believe. This means that women who have done these things, what the internalized wanted to be, already in their brains, means that they push those standards onto other women anyway. Meaning that the women who exist in positions of power are still like, guys, women are also affected, like everyone within the country and everyone in the world is still affected. Realistically, the people who have had to appeal to patriarchal laws to get into these positions of power in the first place, all of the things they're likely to enforce are still likely to be incredibly sexist norms, are still likely to be incredibly incredibly sexualizing women, incredibly harmful. A few things then to note. Firstly, this means that I think a lot of the stuff that Velina said about women who rap, or rap that like to be empowering, is still viewed through the lens of what's likely to be very sellable to the public. And the people that sell to the public still reinforce the patriarchal norms that Fraser is talking about. And realistically, they still reinforce the things that music producers believe to be existing, which is the things they have learned to be good through the history that they have grown up in the first place, all of which has been male dominated. Secondly, I think what this means there's a few other impacts on male-led rap. A lot of male rappers have done a lot of sexual assault. That's probably a bad thing for women. I think they also promote a lot of violence against women in their rap in the first place. Even if this is not something that causes men to go out and sexually assault women, I think it changes the way men view viewing women the thing that they view as being okay, the way to which that they should view women in the first place. I think this means that you view that women should be more sexual. I think it means that you view women as people who should be submissive to you and therefore should do the things that you want to. I think all of these things mean that the life of women at age of these gets significantly worse. I just from that perspective, just from male-led rap, I think male-led rap has caused a significant amount of harm to women, and I'm not sure that any of the good things that we want to talk about can outweigh that. So, okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, sexual liberation. It is still absolutely done to male standards. Realistically, the thing that the patriarchy want women to do is they want women to sort of behave in the same way that like women have been behaving for centuries. They want to paint it as a form of liberation. They do this by saying, you're now making the choice in order to be this incredibly sexualized object. It's okay, guys, because you're making that choice to do that in the first place. And it's the thing that we are reporting, saying that you should do it because it makes you feel really, really sexy. But you have to think about why do these women feel sexy when they do these things? Because the men in their life are all saying, but yeah, you do look really sexy when you wear that really tiny outfit and you dance a lot. I think all of these things are something that the patriarchy wants you to do in the first place. Meaning that, even when women are making choices on these things, choices to do these things, and when women are making the music that says it's a good thing, it's further legitimizes what we believe to be something that is like something that women back is doing. Like realistically, when a woman is saying, it's really good to be a sexual, like it's really good to be like sexually liberated and behaving in a very fine manner, it further reinforces the narrative people think about like, a woman has said and therefore it's something that's actually feminist. Like this is the whole basis of choice feminism. So when women stand up and they say, we made the choice in order to do this, without realizing that also pushes ideals and standards onto other women, meaning that other women are also then expected to behave in this similar way. I think what this means, and like, I don't always think the judges credit this, but realistically, it changes the way in which you feel like if you engage this media significantly, if you do lots, it changes the way in which you are able to view women, you view women as these objects in the first place, but I think what this means is you're just more likely to treat them badly. And like, honestly, obviously, it's not the right small act that every like time you interact with a woman, you're going to look slightly worse, but this builds up over time. If you're a woman who has to live with a man treating you badly, and you have to live with this interaction day after day after day, it probably makes you feel significantly worse about yourself, change your ability to view yourself as a person, but also change your ability to view yourself like within like understand what you actually want from sex, because you're being told what you should want from sex, and not the thing you actually do want from sex. Lastly then, what I think is really interesting paper that's come out of posting is about like body positivity and what things that Lizzo has done for that game. I think it's probably really interesting. I'd like a few things to know here. Firstly, practice surveys for the sex, you think to sell to the most number of people possible. Meaning that you still try and do things that are aesthetically pleasing, or the majority view of the sex is aesthetically pleasing. This means when we do things such as promoting fat bodies, we still promote the most aesthetically beautiful version of a fat body. We never actually promote what actual people look like, meaning that when you view yourself and you see someone like, like, look at this beautiful fat woman, and you are also like a woman who exists in a fat body, you look at that body and you compare yourself to it, and because you can never match up to something that is inherently photoshopped or inherently meant to be the most aesthetic version of that thing, you can never actually live up to the thing that like, people are saying is the beauty standard for your type of body in the first place. Meaning that even when you have body positivity, it's also in such an aesthetic manner, people don't actually get the benefit of that body positivity, which is still compared to something that's completely unachievable.
Once you analyze sexism exists significantly outside of hip hop and rap, how would you weigh the value of a single young woman being able to claim some value of her sexuality against the already existing forces?
Look, if a woman's been beaten up on the street and you see that she's beaten up on the street, you don't go and like punch her some more because you've already been punched. That's ridiculous. People say it's crazy all the fucking time. Just because something is sexist or something is like sexism silly thing, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't like engage in the things that also create more sexism. Those things are bad. By proving this is misogynistic, that's a ridiculous thing to run. Okay. Sorry, that was really hard. Okay, the impact. I think the impact of this is that, like, with microaggressions, the way in which we externalize beauty, the things that we view of women, the things that we expect from women in the first place, get significantly worse. We put these things onto other women, and we expect these things from women in the first place. This means that the type of liberation that we are able to achieve, the type of feminism that we're ever able to achieve, is always likely to be tied to the things that patriarchy already looks like. I think what this means is that even when you're becoming liberated to the standard of what the patriarchy wants you to be liberated. Men still benefit from the sexualization of women. Women get some benefit from this, but the people who are still benefiting from this are the men who are engaging this with in the first place. But you still get to see in your kind of body food. And maybe this is good for some women, but it's not good for all women, and people should have the choice, the free choice to be able to engage with this as they wish. This is not a free choice, this is a coerced choice, this is incredibly harmful, and unfair as how you can say it.
I'd like to thank the speaker for that excellent speech and call upon the next member of the opposition here.
Sorry, check my huge.
This is what real feminism should be about.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. I don't think you're all from rich UK universities. I don't think any of you have ever spoken to a real person. Real people don't go like, oh, but you know, how does this suppress me and turn away feminism, because it's interacting this type of thing and the patriarchy, whatever. Bro, people are simpler than this. People's experience of art are simpler than this in these kinds of particular things. What I'm going to do is two things. Firstly, an engagement with the whole discrete sexism point, and secondly, an engagement with the women and sexual discrimination. Firstly, on the engagement of the whole women are doing, the whole thing is very sexist. There are reasons why it's all very sexist. There are reasons why it might not be a sexist model. I think what the realistic version is, some is very sexist, some is, sure, we can even accept, it's still sexist to some degree, but to a substantially lesser degree. What the important thing is, there is a shit ton of rap, pathologically in the world, that women engage with, that they buy, that they enjoy. Why do they engage with? Why do they buy it? And why do they enjoy it is the important thing. There is rap that they don't enjoy it. And they say it's very hard to walk out. I don't think it's all that hard to walk out. You say, they say you hear it on the radio, but you can also change the radio station on the thing. You could not go to places where they play rap in this type of particular things. Even if you know about it, just knowing a sexist thing exists probably doesn't make you feel that bad when plenty of sexist things exist. There is a limit to which you can interact with this type of particular thing. But this is all stupid debating, blah 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 blah. Some sexism, some not sexism, whatever. I mean, realistically, probably a bit in it. What is then the point? The clash on creating sexism is probably the vastly less important clash. Why? For two reasons. The first is not that it's a non-unique clash, very obviously. There are plenty of other things which create sexism as well. In fact, this is analytically, it must be true, because the society shapes what music is sold and enjoyed more often than music shapes how the society is. If the society is one way, this means that people want to buy music, people already support their pre-existing beliefs. Now, McCreadie is right. This is a cop-out response in this kind of thing. You can just say this is non-unique, but it's a little bit more. But you know what? It's not a cop-out response. When you compare a non-unique impact to a unique impact, rap has a unique way of interacting with people, a unique way of making you feel. And what are these two sort of unique ways? And again, they're not totally unique, but they're unique in terms of most popular music. First, rap is uniquely a music about oppression. How many songs are legit written by poor people explaining their experiences about all these things? Rap is specifically structured around this. This is why women can engage with it in a way they cannot with other art. But secondly, and they themselves made it, rap is a power fantasy. Rap is a celebration of how great a person is in a way that other music necessarily isn't in this kind of thing. Like, have you ever seen fucking Taylor Swift go, I have 50 cars, bro, and all these particular things, right? Rap uniquely creates this kind of thing. So what is then the comparative? The world may even become marginally more sexist, but now you have a unique avenue to deal with this kind of thing in the world. A unique way to make yourself feel better in a way that, mind you, you probably feel bad anyways. And look, this doesn't work for every woman, but there are definitely women in the world that uniquely are now able to do that thing. Why is it necessarily very good thing? Not the person who can make them feel better, prevent them from feeling horrible on a day-to-day basis. Also, secondly, oppression isn't absolute, but people often believe it is. People believe that if you are born a woman, you're fucked, you're shit out of luck, you never achieve anything in your life. You need someone to tell you, fuck no good, you're powerful in this capacity. Not even a woman necessarily. Someone who came from nothing, someone who made themselves into who you are today. This is what enables you in a unique way in a world that probably fucks you anyways in this kind of thing. But know that thoroughly. This will sound maybe bad. I think people are a bit snowflakes. I don't think oppression affects you as much as most people think. If people call you a bitch, this probably doesn't influence your life all that much. There are a billion things that influence your life that have nothing to do with oppression. How you lead your own life, your own sense of self physically, your own motivation. Rap is an avenue that allows you to improve your experiences with all of these, not just with how do you call this, with discrimination, not just with oppression. So even if they prove that oppression is marginally more, this is one of the problems women face. But they also face getting up out of bed every morning. They face struggling with day-to-day things that have nothing to do with sexism, and this is something that can help women deal with it, help women cope with it, that I don't see how this is not necessarily a good thing for women. Then, on women and sexualization, the closing before us.
Yeah, so why do you need rap to talk about your oppression?
Nothing else makes art about this thing, bro. Art, rap is literally made by fucking girls who reads and all these particular things, who write up and explain, this is how I got here, this is how all of these types of things are happening. And again, and this is the most beautiful thing. Even if there are some other music that works like this, women could be uniquely affected by rap, certain women. For them, it can have a unique effect that other music say wouldn't, but then it's very crucial. This doesn't happen for sexism and these types of things. Why? Because sexism is around you in many different ways. Sexism is not personal, it just is in the world. It is a thing in principle, but music, but art, it is personal for you. You do engage it in a unique way. You are able to provide a unique impact. I see you smiling because no, I have this thing in the bank in this type of particular way. Finally, on women and oppression and all these particular things. Like, I'm sorry, they say now women are made to feel that they have to be very sexy. Once again, I don't think you've ever spoken to your people. Most women like feeling very sexy, and if not, many women like feeling very sexy in these particular things. Women like feeling sexy to please men. Loads of women like feeling sexy to please men in sort of particular capacity. And even if they didn't, society tells them in a variety of ways that they should anyways. But once again, what is the difference? You are now able to extract power from this act, control from this act. That you are doing it for you, that you take enjoyment out of it. Like, I'm sorry, a woman realizes her oppression. What the fuck does she do? The world is still sexist, the world is still shitty. But now you interact with the world in a way where you can draw empowerment from it, draw pleasure from it, when you see other people that are also drawing pleasure from it. So the world is symmetrically shitty. With your capacity to cope with it, to live with it every day, to fucking enjoy it greater. And Pranav, I'm sorry, if women don't enjoy the shit they face every day, they might as well be dead because they face a lot of shit. So we are able to do this kind of thing, absent of this most a lot of shit they face. Now we do better, both of us.
I'd like to thank the speaker for an excellent speech. I call upon the member of the government. I think there's some streaming. Oh, there we go.
Oh, he's burning his phone.
Was very true.
I'm going to first deal with the OG clash on misogyny and then on extension. OG's claim first is that misogynistic messages are embedded in most forms of modern rhetoric that is created by men. I have two responses to this. The first that the whole point of modern rhetoric is hinged on mirroring social development and social evolution. That is to say that the forms of rap and hip hop gradually evolve to mirror the social norms of the day, that they echo the emancipatory forces that emerge in society for women. So social development already hedges against the worst forms of modern rap and hip hop that the government talks about. But recognize that it's also a wash. That is to say that misogynistic messages occur in all mediums of music, perhaps with slightly more explicit in rap, arguably exist in subtle forms in all forms of music. But the point therefore is that modern rap and hip hop gives women of color one of the most powerful tools by which to resist these kinds of misogynistic acts. Because in a world in which most forms of music are already misogynistic, we provide these people with an accessible medium, a medium that women of color love and resonate with them, a medium that culturally rooted in their history and their background to counteract and resist such narratives. I think this weighs over because all mitigates against sexism by explaining that society is changing and family teaches as well. But the point is to give them the tools and the accessible and safe space to challenge such norms and get such resistance against misogynistic narratives. The second point that open government tells you is that women have to pander to men and sexualize themselves in order to climb up entertainment. I just want to note here that this is just factually untrue, and I think this is an unfair characterization of this wonderful artistic space as well. Because the fact is that in modern forms of rap and hip hop, there are many popular female rappers who choose not to sexualize themselves. People like Queen Latifah, people like Little Sims. The reason, therefore, that they still gain so much popularity and salience is simple. It's just the resonance of their message. POCs and women see the power of their messages independent of their sexuality, commentary on social oppression, on specific problems that affect ethnicity, on specific problems that affect women in society, be an independent resonant value. But let's take OG effect. Even if they, I think fundamentally it is about choice. That is to say, the OG comparative should never be able to like such channels to achieve nothing just because they're sexualizing themselves. But what the hell is wrong with sexualizing themselves? The point is that for those who want to be able to opt into it, because if they are able to do it, they are able to do so now, they're able to be able to play the sexualized space that they could have never opted to before. This brings me perfectly to my extension on why allowing women to be able to take ownership of a space that has historically marginalized and excluded them. And so therefore, my modern rap and hip hop is the reparatory form by which you are allowing these women to reclaim their own agency. An important analytical link that is missing in opening opposition. Let's just position it forward first. I think O's meant this too, and I didn't think they put out into this. They thought that hey, modern rap and hip hop is for women, for these women, and tailored to these women. It makes them feel like they have power. And secondly, they know that such rap and hip hop music is the language of oppression. It helps them to play their stories and narratives. I still want to throw out an important critical point of analysis there, which is that why exactly modern rap and hip hop necessary bridge the most cathartic, the most salient form of recognition for women to claim a space that they have never been able to claim, to space that they have never been able to explore their sexuality and freedom in the music world that's historically been dominated by conservative and family norms. The second one is just explaining how these spaces allow women to be able to utilize them as means of economic emancipation. I think this outweighs all independently. We show that modern rap and hip hop has a restorative and a reparative function here. So it's not just providing an independent benefit, but it's the most crucial link between themselves and the identities that they were never able to play in the past. Why is modern rap and hip hop the necessary bridge? I think historically, music has just been disenfranchising women, especially women of color. Three mechanisms here. A, music has just been white dominated. The most salient and most popular forms of music just don't tell POC stories, much less POC women's stories, because these kinds of narratives just never occurred to these people to be inserted into the narrative space in the very first place. This is until rap and hip hop came along, which is to say that just like overall volume of media and content and music online has just been dominated by like white people. But secondly, I think it's systemically POC women are from being able to claim narratives of sexuality because of the overemphasis on things like family norms, that like sexuality is only something that's confined to the purview of the family unit and love, that like conservative values means that you shouldn't ban your body that much. I think this is something that's just locked these women out of being able to explore their sexuality freely. But thirdly, I think it's the family of POC women out of being able to interrogate questionable societal norms that hurt them. That the questionable societal norms, that the bad beauty standards is when you're filthy, when you're clean and things like that. They're like having like just being a person of color, it's something that reduces your beauty. So these kinds of ingrained norms that we see in all kinds of misogynistic and racist music that's occurred in the past. The implication, therefore, for our case is that the incumbent music scene has harmed women, and hip hop and rap as an essential repertoire of that is necessary for women to achieve a critical level of good. Firstly, I think it provides them a medium with accessible music rooted in the culture and upbringing that they were brought up with, but more importantly, with language they can easily convey, that they can easily understand, and they can easily produce. So it reduces the ability for them to be systemically locked out of such music scene where they are able to use a medium that they opt into and a medium that's popular in the social media and in the media space and in the entertainment space as a whole for them to be able to project these narratives. But secondly, I think it just provides them independently with a space of entertainment and a space of exploration. I'll take you very soon for to be able to reclaim themselves. That is to say that the space of art itself is a space for exploration of collecting value that derives that you can use to derive your own identity. I think it's something that you can't achieve and can achieve. Yeah,
even if these things are true, the most successful and wide-reaching raps is stuff we talk about due to the market incentives and the way you're able to sell this stuff to the masses.
so I think I've already dealt with that. And let's say that even if it's true that most forms of music are indeed sexualized, I think the first thing is that this is something that applies to all forms of music. But secondly, we are the only side that provides the tool, the strongest and the most accessible tool by which we can challenge these kinds of habits. I think this is missing link that is not explored in opening competition. Thirdly, it allows them to weaponize or invert narratives. That is to say, they can use the kind of misogynistic narratives that men bring and claim them from themselves to use it as a tool of mockery, as a tool of empowerment, to use it to attack and socially interrogate questionable societal norms. I think this reverses the three things that women were locked up for that I established at the start. Well, lastly, just a quick point on the economic anticipation. Lots of modern rap and hip hop artists come from this underprivileged background. Economically disadvantaged. These are people who get work areas like the sex industry, etc. One of the best ways for them to escape cycles of poverty and claim a line of work that A, pays well for them, but B, also provides the essential space for them to explore and overcome societal barriers in through modern hip hop and rap music. For all of those reasons, very proud to oppose.
I'd like to thank the speaker for the excellent speech and call upon the last member of the proposition to close the case for their side. You're here.
Not an exaggeration to say that hip hop as a movement has been the single most compelling and successful counterculture movement in the history of humanity. In the last decade, it has facilitated a number of things. The first is the most successful reclamation of words used to oppress people of color in the N-word. It has created multiple millionaires, people who were back in the day, individuals who had limited economic capacity and now find themselves as functional captains of industry. It is also functioned as an opportunity for people to take space and use that space to accurately reflect their journey. It is important to ask the question, what is the value of art? What is the way in which we conceptualize art in relation to art? Because look here, hip hop is the most profound art form of our time. It is the most popular of genre. It is the most popular genre in the world, and more specifically, it is something that is universal. It might seem as if, for a genre historically based in the experience of people of color, the opposition seeks to flatten the tapestry of this art form. Instead, they make two claims. They say in its entirety, it has only resulted in two main outcomes. The first one is for people who struggle get to feel better about themselves, and women are not of equal value. This is a split in the face of the entirety of the history of modern hip hop, and more often, more realistically than I would say that we can give like 5 minutes on random economic analysis, but cannot name a single rapper outside of Cardi B in the entirety of this debate. A number of things in direct response to the opposition bench. Outside of the closing opposition, this is they commit the most egregious failure of characterization in saying that the problem with rap music is that it is guarded by the studios who have no incentive to cater for meaningfully diverse things. And here's what I'll do to analysis of the world as it exists. The massive globalization and the access to technology over the last few years have resulted in a few meaningful changes to the way music is distributed. There is a massive level of focus in independent British art. But more specifically, there is an incredibly low barrier to have a world-class microphone in your pocket and a sound that can meaningfully take your art and take it to public. That is why, for instance, independent artists like Nune from Chicago has become one of the most profoundly impactful artists of the last year, where little songs wins BAFTA awards next to white people and like bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers, which have been vanguarded for decades as someone who grew up in Detroit. This is important because no panel, individuals have the opportunity to emancipate themselves with technology. All of the stuff that they exist maybe made sense 20, 30 years ago. They simply don't live in a realistic version of the world, and they do not contend with hip hop as it exists for the modern reality. More specifically, really gives you really good analysis as how hip hop itself is an art form that mirrored the specific development of society. It focused in its infancy on the traits of blues and soul music and found a way to specifically criticize the segregation between bodies. Then it became an idea of how we criticize modern things like capitalism and the way it instrumentalizes ourselves. So when Ice Spice says 100 bands in Chanel, but I'm still taking ass in the Delhi, it is a literal thing of saying she's been able to emancipate her systems, self-systems capitalism, through 100 grand in the designer bag, and through that, she makes the choice to still shake her ass in the Delhi, because it is the choice that she is going to undertake. I want to look at huge problems with the feminist claims that come out of the open opposition. They make the claim that it is ineffective for a certain person who functions as a feminist body to be unable to claim and like sexuality because it is supposed to be. A few things to note with relation to feminism. I think the most reasonable form of feminism is intersectional. It considers women as people who contain multitudes and at any one time have a multiplicity of factors. Strategic importance of this. Every woman of color who has been emancipated and might have been harmed by the sexist narratives has also been uniquely empowered by, for instance, the narratives by Kendrick Lamar and his ability to be recognized on the echelons of power and include prizes. That is to say, even if there is a direct feminist harm, which I genuinely uncertain exists, because honestly, there are no examples on their side, right? It is whether or not the value that people get, because you are not just a woman of the time, you're also someone who is poor, you're also someone who is a person of color. This is important because open opposition can do this, and because they're a European champion, maybe you can buy what they say. But I honestly don't think there's any analysis that will give you any idea of any concept of intersectionality here. This means categorically, if I was to ask you where in your scale, in your hands, the harm to it, and I give you the analysis, and Rick has told you categorically the impact of the genre. Not just to women, not just to POC women, but to every woman. Like, it sounds a bit on offside that the only people who enjoy rap music are brown people from Compton in LA. I'm sorry, it is the most universal spirit music. People like Taylor Swift feel the need to put ice on the track. Not just because there is some level of enjoyable artistic benefit, because there is a value to the representation and existence of this. This is why is not good enough to say that rap is power. Sure, it was in the form of power, but it is now the ability for us to document the reality of the world. And this is important because it gives people a way to do it. Firstly, a number of lyrics wants to be become Leatherlines is not a hip hop song, it's a pop song sang by a white guy, Pranav on the beat, he's a hip hop producer, maybe that's it, genuinely plays here. But also more specifically, I want to address the POI, because I often do the way that we have to do a more honest emotion. If we improve a single woman and a single person is able to gain a meaningful level of actualization through sexual, like their ability to understand their body in terms of sexual powers that they want. How would we value that actualization on the entirety of pop? And here's what will make it really important games. For the entirety of the history of humanity, women have been essentialized and subjugated at every instance. This has been a violent process that we oftentimes make light of in debating. And I want to make it very clear that, yes, there will be some who do not feel as if they ought to open into the framework of hypersexual attraction as they characterize that exist. I want to know there are multiple forms and meaningful ways in which these things exist. So, for instance, there are many people who are not even people about these things. Importantly then, so for instance, again, now that we know that Queen Latifah was a body positive woman in the 90s who won things and became Academy Award-winning actress, you understand that it is
Given that POC women are even more likely than other women to be reduced to their sex appeal, because society is even less likely to value them for things like their intelligence, our case works at its strongest when it comes to the group that you care about most.
No, it doesn't, because it tells you that people can only find value in art if it's universally speaking to their individual experience. I know there are oftentimes things that make us feel a certain way, and it might be odd to other parts of ourselves, but it does not delegitimize the value that it provides to people of the very same community. It's the value of intersectionality as a rubric and a lens for protagonism, because it doesn't diminish individuals' ability to opt into it. Because they run the real, very real consequence of instrumentalizing people in their own journey to unseat the system of oppression as it exists in themselves. I cannot make it clear that when we offer people the opportunity in that, and it matters for a single person, this is incredibly important. How did this very clearly basis against the open opposition? Two things. Firstly, while they do characterize perhaps in its infancy, they have no material responses to the basic kind of hypersexualization that exists. Firstly, we give you an example. Even if you don't know hip hop, you don't need to believe it. We give you structural analysis of music industry change, how intensive production has changed, and how we're likely to get meaningful change. I think this is the entire scale of opening opposition, but more specifically, it's the idea that when you evaluate the ability of something to impact people, it is not simply on an empirical thing that you can claim. It is about their own ability to say that this is important. And that's why it becomes the most famous update. I'll regulate myself there.
I'd like to thank the speaker for that excellent speech and all of you for it was a great debate. I think this round's closed, right?
Yeah.
Straight spoons.
Yes.
Bye. Spoons.
Straight.